Thomas Jefferson, the documentary. Starring Austin Bacue as Thomas Jefferson, Evan Wessel as Lewis and Napoleon, Lizzie Raish as Sally Hemings, and Bree Hasenstab as the narrator. Edited by Bree Hasenstab. Thomas Jefferson's early life.
Thomas Jefferson was born on April 13, 1743, in Virginia, to the parents of Peter Jefferson and Jane Randolph. He was the third of 8 children. In 1745, his family moved to Tuckahoe and lived there for 7 years and then returned to their home in Albemarle after his father was appointed to the colonelcy of the county. His education began in 1752, where he attended a school run by William Douglas, a Scottish minister. He learned Greek, French, and Latin by the age of 9. After Thomas's father died in 1757, he became heir to his huge land assets and a number of slaves. During 1758 to 1760, Jefferson taught at the school of Minister James Morey, where he received a classical education and studied science and history. He enrolled at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg in 1760 and studied mathematics, metaphysics, and philosophy, and graduated with supreme honors in 1762. He loved wine and learned to play the violin. After graduating, he studied law with George Wythe and began practicing law in Virginia bar in 1767. Between the years 1768 to 1773, he handled a number of cases and established himself as a reputed lawyer.
To me, Thomas Jefferson was a very complex man with great accomplishments. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. He established the Louisiana Purchase, in which the territory spanning 15 modern-day states was acquired, and assisted Lewis and Clark in their expedition. Along with outlawing external slave trade, he was truly a great third president. The Louisiana Purchase. Jefferson was confused on what to do with all the power he now had as president. Nowhere did he confront this more than when he acquired Louisiana. In 1803, the French government is in serious financial trouble. Learning this, Napoleon had to put the country's vast American territory up for sale. Jefferson jumps at the chance. He realizes that there was an issue here, though. The area of land is not really specific in the Constitution of the United States. Jefferson considered seeking an amendment, or some sort of congressional approval. But when Napoleon signals that he might back out of the deal, Jefferson knows he has to act fast. He oversteps his authority as president and authorizes the Louisiana Purchase. He doubled the size of the nation with a pen stroke for $15 million. Napoleon tries to compromise with Jefferson about selling Louisiana. First, he only wanted to sell part of it. Thomas Jefferson didn't like that. Then a little more. Still not taking it. Then 3/4 of it. But Thomas Jefferson still didn't approve. Finally, all of it, and Thomas Jefferson was happy. On April 30th, 1803, the nation of France sold 828,000 square miles of land west of the Mississippi River to the young United States of America in a treaty commonly known as the Louisiana Purchase. President Thomas Jefferson, in one of his greatest achievements, more than doubled the size of the United States at a time when the young nation's population growth was beginning to quicken. The Louisiana Purchase was an incredible deal for the United States. The final cost totaling less than 5 cents per acre at $15 million, France's land was mainly explored wilderness, and so the fertile soils and other valuable natural resources we know are present today might not have been factored in the relatively low cost at the time. After purchasing the land, Thomas Jefferson had to choose someone to lead the expedition. In the end, he chose his own personal secretary, Meriwether Lewis. who was not only a secretary but also a frontiersman. Thomas Jefferson also chose William Clark, who was known for his success in the wilderness. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark led a government-sponsored expedition to explore the vast wilderness of the West, soon after the signing of the Louisiana Purchase. The team, also known as the Corps of Discovery, left St. Louis, Missouri, in 1804 and returned to the same spot in 1806. They ended up traveling 8,000 miles. The expedition gathered huge amounts of information about the landscapes. The team first traveled northwest, up to the Missouri River, and traveled west from its end, all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Bison, grizzly bears, prairie dogs, bighorn sheep, and antelope were just a few of the animals that Lewis and Clark encountered. The pair even had a couple of birds named after them, Clark's nutcracker and Lewis's woodpecker. In total, the journals of the Lewis and Clark expedition described 180 plants and 125 animals that were unknown to scientists at the time. Here, Meriwether Lewis is speaking with Thomas Jefferson about traveling Louisiana, which Thomas Jefferson purchased from Napoleon in a great deal. Thomas Jefferson grew up on one of the largest tobacco plantations in Virginia. At the age of 21, he inherited several thousand acres of land that encompassed the family estate, as well as Jefferson's favorite spot, a nearby hilltop called Monticello, which is Italian for Little Mountain. In 1768, workers broke ground on the site, beginning a decades-long process that would captivate Jefferson, bankrupt his family, and produce one of America's most ionic and historically significant architectural masterpieces. In addition to the architecture, Monticello is known for the extensive gardens, which Jefferson designed and monitored himself. Jefferson would use his home as a safe haven away from work. He created this masterpiece on top of a hill specifically for his family and peace. This was one of the most important places in Jefferson's life. Monticello held love, family, and even secrets. The claim that Thomas Jefferson fathered children with Sally Hemings, a slave at Monticello, entered the public arena during Jefferson's first term as president, and it has remained a subject of discussion and disagreement for 2 centuries. In September 1802, political journalist James T. Callender, a disaffected former ally of Jefferson, wrote in a Richmond newspaper that Jefferson had for many years kept as his concubine one of his own slaves. Her name is Sally. Callender continued, adding that Jefferson had several children by her. Although there has been rumors of sexual relationship between Jefferson and an enslaved woman before 1802, Callender's article spread the story widely. It was taken up by Jefferson's Federalist opponents and was published in many newspapers during the remainder of Jefferson's presidency. Jefferson's policy was to offer no public response to personal attacks, and he apparently made no explicit public or private comment on this question. Sally Hemings left no known account. Jefferson's daughter, Martha Jefferson Randolph, privately denied the published reports. 2 of her children, Ellen Randolph Coolidge and Thomas Jefferson Randolph, maintained many years later that such a liaison was not possible, on both moral and practical grounds. They also stated that Jefferson's nephews, Peter and Samuel Carr, were the fathers of the light-skinned Monticello slaves, some thought to be Jefferson's children, because they resembled him. The Jefferson Hemings story was sustained through the 19th century by Northern abolitionists, British critics of American democracy, and others. Its vitality among the American population at large was recorded by European travelers of the time. Through the 20th century, some historians accepted the possibility of Jefferson-Hemings connection, and a few gave it credence. But most of Jefferson's scholars found that case for such a relationship unpersuasive. Over the years, however, belief in a Thomas Jefferson-Sally Hemings relationship was perpetuated in private. Two of her children, Madison and Eston, indicated that Jefferson was their father, and this belief has been perpetuated in the oral histories of generations of their descendants as an important family truth. There's also DNA evidence of this connection. Time to investigate the facts, and you choose. Is Thomas Jefferson guilty of having a relationship with Sally Hemings, or is he not guilty? Sally Hemings was a slave at Monticello. She lived in Paris with Jefferson and his two daughters from 1787 to 1789, and she had at least 6 children. Sally Hemings' duties included being a nursemaid companion to Thomas Jefferson's daughter, Maria, a lady's maid to daughters Martha and Maria, and a chambermaid and seamstress. There are no known images of Sally Hemings, and only 4 known descriptions of her appearance or demeanor. Sally Hemings left no known written accounts. It is not known if she was literate. In the few scattered references to Sally Hemings in Thomas Jefferson's records and correspondence, there is nothing to distinguish her from any other members of her family. Thomas Jefferson was at Monticello at the likely conception times of Sally Hemings' 6 known children. There are no known records suggesting that she was elsewhere at these times, or records of any births at any other times that would exclude Jefferson's paternity. There are no known indications in contemporary accounts by people familiar with Monticello that Sally Hemings' children had different fathers. Sally Hemings' children were light-skinned, and 3 of them lived as members of white society as adults. According to contemporary accounts, some of Sally Hemings' children strongly resembled Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson freed all of Sally Hemings' children. Beverly, Harriet were allowed to leave Monticello in 1822. Madison and Easton were released in Jefferson's 1826 will. Jefferson gave freedom to no other nuclear slave family. Thomas Jefferson did not free Sally Hemings. She was permitted to leave Monticello by his daughter Martha Jefferson Randolph, not long after Jefferson's death in 1826, and went to live with her sons, Madison and Easton, in Charlottesville. Several people close to Thomas Jefferson or the Monticello community believe that he was the father of Sally Hemings' children. Easton Hemings changed his name to Easton Hemings Jefferson in 1852. Madison Hemings stated in 1873 that he and his siblings Beverly and Harriet and Easton were Thomas Jefferson's children. The descendants of Madison Hemings, who had lived in African Americans, have passed a family history of descendants from Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings. Thomas Jefferson had been very ill for the past 2 days. He had been coming in and out of consciousness. It was about to be the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, which was one of the most important moments of his life. That day brought back his mark on the world. He had been clinging to life to make it to that day. He kept asking, "Is it the 4th yet?" So his grandson-in-law came in and tapped him on the shoulder and reported that it was the 4th. And on the 4th, he let go and died.